Grainy clips from David's concert appearing to show someone strikingly similar to Celeste Rivas have ignited a frenzy online. But what the FBI just revealed about this footage is far more unsettling. From a timeline that suddenly doesn't add up to questions about who actually knew what, this case is unraveling in shocking ways. Here's what's happening. The FBI confirms David's girlfriend may have been seen at his concert in September. Investigators have just dropped one of the most chilling updates in the David murder case, and what they found is darker than anyone could have imagined. Newly enhanced video footage appears to show 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, David's girlfriend, present at his early September show, shifting the entire timeline of this already twisted investigation. This finding has shaken the true crime world, challenging everything previously believed about when Celeste's tragic end occurred. The footage, filmed at David's September 6 concert in Silver Spring, Maryland, seems to capture a girl bearing an uncanny resemblance to Celeste standing near the balcony area. If this truly was her, the implications are enormous. It would mean Celeste was alive mere days before police discovered David's abandoned Tesla in the Hollywood Hills, with her decomposed body inside. What first looked like just another grainy clip may actually be the key evidence that pinpoints the final days of one of the most disturbing celebrity murder mysteries in recent memory.
New video footage of a girl believed to be Celeste at David's concert in late August has surfaced, which would be the last date she was seen alive, but the internet is divided on the latest update about this footage. A girl who looks a lot like Celeste was spotted at David's concert on either the 23rd or the 24th of August in Silver Spring, Maryland. She was up on the balcony on the side of the stage, watching on, and it's hard to deny that she resembles Celeste. She looks a lot like her.
The likeness was striking. The girl in the video had hair almost identical to Celeste's from her missing person photos. And perhaps most chilling of all, she was wearing a black tube top, the same style of clothing Celeste was found in when her body was recovered from David's trunk. Police reports suggest this detail couldn't easily be dismissed as coincidence. It was specific enough to make even hardened skeptics pause. But the story didn't end there. Viewers with sharp eyes spotted something that made the footage even more eerie and heartbreaking. During the concert, David appears to point directly at the girl on the balcony and form half of a heart with his hand. The moment carried a disturbing sense of familiarity and recognition, as though he was signaling to someone he knew intimately. The gesture sent shivers through everyone who saw it, implying not only that this girl might indeed be Celeste, but that David was acknowledging her in a way that, in hindsight, feels deeply sinister.
In another video, we see David pointing at the girl on the balcony while he makes a half heart. The guy she's standing next to is also David's brother, which raises even more questions, and particularly how much did he know about Celeste and David's relationship? Because if he's his brother and he's around backstage, going to concerts, hanging out with Celeste, he must know a lot about at least their relationship.
David's brother appearing beside the mystery girl added yet another disturbing twist to the sighting. If the girl really was Celeste, it would mean David's own family members weren't just aware of their relationship, they might have been actively supporting it. This raised troubling questions about how many people in David's inner circle knew about his alleged involvement with the underage teen and what role, if any, they played in hiding it from the public and authorities. The timing of the sighting became crucial. The concert took place roughly 12 days before David's abandoned Tesla was discovered and towed from the Hollywood Hills near his home, with Celeste's badly decomposed body wrapped in plastic inside. Investigators had stated that her remains were in an advanced state of decay, leading many to believe she had been dead for several weeks or even months prior to being found.
That was her in the video. This raises the question of whether or not 12 days was enough time for her body to decompose to the state that it was in. Now, I'm no expert on this stuff, but I will say I was in LA during September during this time, and it was extremely, extremely hot. So the fact that she was in a trunk, closed up, wrapped in plastic in that heat could potentially speed up the decomposition process, in my mind, but also according to ChatGPT.
That's why the question of decomposition timing became so critical. Could a human body truly reach that condition in only 12 days? The intense September heat in Los Angeles, combined with the airtight trunk and plastic wrapping, could theoretically accelerate decomposition dramatically. If the concert footage is authentic, it narrows the timeline sharply, potentially placing Celeste's death within a window that directly implicates David as one of the last people to see her alive. True crime communities and online sleuths immediately began scrutinizing each frame of the footage, comparing facial structure, movement, and clothing details. The resemblance was compelling enough that even experienced analysts found it nearly impossible to dismiss. The girl's body language, the ease in her movements, and the confidence she showed amid what should have been an overwhelming concert crowd all seemed to suggest someone comfortable in that environment. Someone who had been to David's shows before and possibly shared a close connection with him. Yet as the footage continued to spread and receive deeper analysis, new doubts began to surface. Observers pointed out that the girl appeared slightly older than Celeste would have been, and her build and height didn't seem to fully align with the description in the official missing person reports. These inconsistencies began to chip away at what many had initially considered solid evidence. Still, the resemblance was strong enough to keep speculation alive and fuel ongoing debate. And the implications of this possible sighting reached far beyond merely establishing the timeline of Celeste's death. If the girl in the concert video truly was Celeste, it would mean she was alive, seemingly unharmed, and still within David's orbit just days before her body was discovered in his vehicle. That revelation would have completely transformed the case, from a potential missing person incident involving foul play into a direct and immediate homicide investigation, with David positioned firmly as the prime suspect. The footage also reignited questions about the nature of their relationship in her final weeks. If she was attending his performances and being publicly acknowledged by him from the stage, it suggested a degree of openness that contradicted earlier assumptions of secrecy surrounding their alleged connection. Such a public display, if genuine, implied either shocking audacity on David's part in flaunting an illegal relationship or deeper dynamics between them that the public had yet to understand. As the video spread, social media erupted with debates, theories, and detailed breakdowns from every corner of the internet. Online investigators began producing side-by-side photo comparisons, enhancing the footage, and dissecting every possible visual clue. The emotional investment in confirming or disproving this sighting was immense. Many believed it could represent the final known appearance of a young girl whose story had ended in tragedy. But in time, it became clear that all this speculation, analysis, and emotional energy had been built on a misidentification that would soon be completely dismantled by federal authorities. The FBI revelation that followed changed everything. Just as the true crime world was convinced they had uncovered the crucial piece of evidence that could expose the truth about David's case, federal investigators released a statement that completely overturned the prevailing narrative surrounding the concert footage. The update didn't come from local detectives or state officials, but from federal sources directly involved in the case, lending it a level of authority and credibility that few could dispute.
And now TMZ, who posted and reported on these videos, has updated their article to say that the woman in the videos is not Celeste Rivas, according to a source that is connected to the case. So that could potentially be even a police officer that has already looked into this in their investigation. The fact that they very clearly made this update and blatantly said it is not her according to their source connected to the case makes it sound like they are absolutely sure.
The thoroughness of this debunking was remarkable. When TMZ, the entertainment outlet that first helped amplify the concert footage theory, issued an update, they cited a source directly connected to the investigation who confirmed beyond doubt that the woman in the video was not Celeste Rivas. This wasn't framed as uncertainty or speculation. It was a definitive statement that left no room for continued debate. The source's close link to the case implied that law enforcement had already conducted a detailed review of the footage, likely employing facial recognition analysis and consulting forensic imaging experts to ensure total accuracy. Given the public pressure surrounding the case, such rigor was inevitable. But the FBI's confirmation introduced a far darker layer to the story. If the person in the video wasn't Celeste, then David had been interacting with, and seemingly acknowledging, a girl who looked alarmingly similar to her, during a time when the real Celeste was likely already dead. The psychological implications of this are haunting, raising unsettling questions about David's mindset, his guilt, and what that eerie concert moment truly represented.
What makes this even more eerie is that if it's not her, the fact that David was hanging out with a Celeste lookalike at a time that Celeste was probably already dead. This just makes my skin crawl.
The timing of this revelation becomes even more critical when viewed within the broader context of the case. Celeste Rivas had been reported missing in April 2024 from Lake Elsinore, California, at just 13 years old. By the time David performed his August 2025 concert, she had been missing for well over a year. If David truly played a role in her death, then his decision to publicly acknowledge a girl who so closely resembled her during a live show takes on a deeply disturbing significance. This act suggested several unsettling possibilities about his psychological makeup. Was he deliberately taunting authorities and the public by parading a Celeste lookalike in plain sight? Was he attempting to confuse investigators and distort the timeline of events to obscure the truth? Or was this the manifestation of a darker obsession that compelled him to seek out girls who resembled his alleged victim? Investigators had already uncovered troubling links between David and Celeste, including identical tattoos on their right index fingers and claims from Celeste's mother that her daughter had been dating someone named David around the time she disappeared. These earlier discoveries had already established the likelihood of an inappropriate relationship between the 20-year-old musician and the underage girl. But the appearance of the concert lookalike added a deeper layer of psychological complexity to the story. The fact that the federal investigation itself took the lead in debunking the footage underscored just how serious the potential charges against David could be. The FBI generally becomes involved in cases that cross state lines or involve major federal offenses, such as kidnapping, sex trafficking, or murder for hire. Given that David's tour itinerary spanned multiple states, investigators began to consider whether Celeste had been transported across state borders for illicit purposes, which could trigger federal prosecution. The precision and confidence with which the FBI dismissed the concert footage indicated that they had obtained concrete evidence that placed Celeste elsewhere during the time in question. This could include digital tracking data, witness statements, or forensic findings that established an irrefutable timeline of her final movements. The fact that federal officials were willing to issue such a definitive correction strongly implied that their conclusions were based on verified proof, not speculation. The debunking also reignited a broader conversation about the reliability of eyewitness accounts and the dangers of online speculation in high-profile criminal investigations. The concert footage had been scrutinized by thousands of people across social media, many of whom were utterly convinced they were looking at Celeste. The reality that trained investigators, equipped with advanced forensic tools, were able to conclusively disprove that claim revealed just how limited amateur sleuthing can be, and how easily misinformation can spiral out of control, even when spread by well-intentioned people. For David's defense team, this development presented a complicated situation. If formal charges are eventually filed, the FBI's finding could serve as both an advantage and a setback. On one hand, it eliminates a potential piece of evidence that would have linked him to Celeste close to the time of her death. On the other, it deepens questions about his mindset and potential culpability, especially if investigators can prove he was intentionally surrounding himself with girls resembling Celeste while she remained missing. The case had already led to the cancellation of several tour dates and the loss of major sponsorships as public scrutiny of David intensified. The revelation that the concert footage had been falsely identified could also give David's legal team grounds to argue that public speculation and viral misinformation were contaminating the jury pool, making a fair trial impossible. However, the FBI's involvement and their careful, evidence-based debunking of the sighting demonstrated that federal investigators were relying on verified data rather than being influenced by online narratives or public outrage. This disciplined approach could ultimately ensure that justice is pursued objectively, whether that results in criminal charges against David or the identification of entirely new suspects if evidence points elsewhere. The emotional toll on Celeste's family from this false lead cannot be overstated. For months, they had endured the agony of uncertainty, clinging to the hope that the concert footage might finally provide answers. The possibility of a confirmed sighting offered a glimmer of closure, a final glimpse into their daughter's last days. But when the footage was definitively debunked, the fragile hope was shattered, leaving them once again in limbo, still searching for truth about what really happened in the final months of Celeste's life. The FBI's definitive debunking of the concert footage has forced both investigators and the public to confront a far darker reality than anyone first imagined. While online communities were preoccupied with whether Celeste Rivas might have still been alive in late August 2025, a more sinister truth was emerging in plain sight. The revelation that David appeared to be surrounded by girls who looked strikingly like Celeste, while the real Celeste was likely already dead, opened a Pandora's box of psychological and behavioral analysis that painted an alarmingly grim portrait of his possible state of mind. The broader investigation had already exposed an alleged pattern of grooming and predatory behavior that stretched well beyond the concert footage itself. Federal agents reportedly uncovered evidence suggesting that David and Celeste had been in contact as far back as 2022, when she was just 11 or 12 and he was 17. That timeline revealed a relationship developing over several years before Celeste's disappearance, suggesting a calculated, long-term pattern of exploitation far more deliberate than initially understood.
David and Celeste telling the moderators to delete streams and clips and things. Watch this clip.
Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Wait.
Oh, look it. Answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer.
Evidence of deliberate concealment and digital erasure pointed to someone acutely aware of the illegality and potential criminality of his actions. The systematic deletion of live streams, messages, and other traces of communication suggested premeditation and a clear consciousness of guilt, going far beyond a simple case of an inappropriate relationship. What made the concert lookalike revelation even more chilling was how seamlessly it fit a broader behavioral pattern often cited by criminal psychologists. Surrounding oneself with substitutes or reminders of a victim, particularly after that victim's disappearance or death, can signal deep psychological compulsions, none of which are benign. Investigators also learned that David's friends reportedly believed Celeste was his adult girlfriend, convinced by her fake ID that she was 19, when in reality she was only between 13 and 15 during their alleged relationship. This orchestrated deception showed that David not only knew his relationship with Celeste was illegal, but that he was actively taking steps to conceal her true age from others, and possibly even manipulating her perception of it as well. The existence of a fake ID added another unmistakable layer of premeditation, implying access to resources and intent that made this more than a spontaneous or misguided romance. Convincing his inner circle that Celeste was an adult required careful planning and coordination, painting the picture of a controlled grooming operation rather than an impulsive act. Federal investigators also uncovered disturbing allegations that Celeste had told friends she had been sexually assaulted by David and another individual referred to as Gus. That name would later take on greater significance when Gus was found shot to death in 2024, a discovery that widened the investigation scope far beyond David alone, hinting at a potential network of abuse and complicity. The death of this associate, Gus, in 2024, while Celeste was still missing, raised serious concerns about whether others involved in her disappearance were being silenced to prevent them from cooperating with authorities. The timing of his death, occurring after Celeste vanished but before her remains were discovered, formed a deeply suspicious sequence investigators were reportedly analyzing closely. The concert lookalike revelation also forced a re-examination of David's public behavior during the period of Celeste's disappearance. Instead of withdrawing from the spotlight or showing visible signs of distress, David continued touring, performing, and allegedly surrounding himself with women who resembled his missing girlfriend. Such behavior could point either to an absence of empathy and remorse, or to an obsessive compulsion to recreate and relive his connection with Celeste. Law enforcement later executed search warrants on David's Hollywood Hills residence, searching specifically for blood evidence and other forensic materials that might link him directly to Celeste's death. The fact that federal investigators were able to secure and execute search warrants strongly indicates that they had sufficient probable cause to believe crimes occurred at those sites and that David was directly involved. The search of his Hollywood Hills property reportedly led to the seizure of multiple electronic devices and other forms of potential evidence, though officials have not disclosed what those items contained. The existence of security cameras on the premises could prove crucial in establishing a timeline of who entered and left the property, particularly during the months when Celeste was missing. The broader investigation also uncovered disturbing elements within David's music that seemed to glorify or allude to violence against women, lyrics that fans are now reassessing in light of the emerging allegations. His breakout single Romantic Homicide and several other tracks carried undertones of control, obsession, and aggression that take on an even more ominous tone given the accusations he faces. The unsettling detail that Romantic Homicide was uploaded on Celeste's birthday, whether by design or coincidence, sparked widespread speculation about whether the song was an artistic expression of guilt, a cryptic confession, or simply an eerie coincidence. The debunking of the concert footage also drew attention to the dual role social media and digital platforms played in both enabling the alleged crimes and spreading misinformation about them. The same online tools that may have allowed David to contact, groom, and manipulate Celeste were now fueling waves of speculation that risked distorting the facts and undermining the investigation. Professionally, the fallout had already been devastating. David's tour cancellations, terminated sponsorships, and the loss of lucrative partnerships reflected an industry quickly distancing itself from controversy. Yet, in light of the ongoing federal probe, these career setbacks might ultimately pale in comparison to the potential legal repercussions. If prosecutors can establish David's direct involvement in Celeste's death, he could face a spectrum of federal charges, from homicide to trafficking violations, each carrying the possibility of life imprisonment. The sweeping removal of his name from major events and festivals underscored how seriously both the entertainment world and the justice system were taking the allegations. The decision by David's own record label to suspend all promotional activities spoke volumes. It signaled that even those with deep financial stakes in his success viewed the accusations as credible enough to warrant extraordinary caution. For Celeste's family, however, the FBI's debunking of the concert footage was emotionally devastating. The glimmer of hope that the video might have offered, a possible sighting, a final clue, was extinguished, leaving them once again to confront the unanswered questions surrounding their daughter's final days. This case serves as a grim reminder of the dangers facing young people in the digital era, where fame, influence, and social media access can become tools of manipulation for predators. It also underscores the need for careful, evidence-driven investigations rather than crowdsourced speculation. As the concert footage incident demonstrated, even well-intentioned online sleuths can be misled by coincidence and confirmation bias, unintentionally spreading misinformation that complicates the pursuit of truth. With federal authorities continuing their work, it's increasingly clear that this case may reach far beyond a single victim or perpetrator. Emerging evidence of long-term grooming, possible accomplice involvement, and deliberate concealment efforts suggest that this may represent a larger network of exploitation that affected multiple victims over time. The so-called concert lookalike revelation, rather than offering clarity, has only deepened the mystery, raising disturbing questions about David's mental state and the true scale of his alleged crimes. As the investigation advances, the world continues to await answers, not only about what truly happened to Celeste Rivers, but also how someone could allegedly commit such horrific acts while maintaining the public image of a charismatic young artist whose music resonated with millions. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, click one of the videos on your screen for more deep-dive true crime investigations and updates as this case continues to unfold.